One of the most profound things I've learned in my life is that it's actually not about my hair at all. I've spent a lifetime trying to cover up who I am. And as much as I love a good external transformation, and I do, I much more love a heart transformation. Join me as I share how I work to heal my heart, find happiness, and embrace our hair.
Welcome back to the Hair, Heart, Happiness podcast, where we talk all things hair, heart, and happiness. This is our mini episodes of It's Not Your Business, where we talk about business. Today, I want to get down to a serious thing that for years stopped me from living the life I wanted to live. So as a stylist or an entrepreneur, I don't get PTO, paid time off. I do not get any. Your clients still need their appointments even if you take off of work. And I did not take my first real vacation that wasn't just to my grandma's house or that my mom paid for until my oldest daughter was like 14. We did some camping and things like that, but I never took a week off of work because I believed the lie twofold. One, I was just a hairdresser. That's what I would say, just a hairdresser. I can't afford to take time off of work because I only get paid if I go to work. Number two, everything's going to fall apart if I don't go into work. That's when I owned the big salon. Okay. Number three, I'm going to lose clients if they have to wait another week to do their hair. And number four, I have to work when I take a week off. I then have to work a bazillion million hours to make up for taking the week off. Do you know what that means? I never want to take a freaking day off. Never. Because who wants to go either work like a freaking crazy person before you leave and then have to work like a crazy person when you go back? But this is normal in our industry. And I'm here to tell you, we're done with it. I would listen to client after client talk about how they were going away on spring break. And I would say mean things to myself. Well, it must be nice. It must be nice to be able to do that. You know what? I would listen to them say they didn't have to leave and then work 100 hours when they got back to make up for being gone. They just took time off and went back. And I would tell myself I could not do that. I couldn't afford to do that. We emit and focus on what we want. I started reading books when Sydney was about. I've always been a reader. But really the self-help, the money management, the believing in wealth, the believing in opportunity, the quitting saying things, whatever we say is what we're going to attract to ourselves or believe about ourselves. So my limiting belief instead of my growth mindset kept me stuck in that. So year after year, I would create that life that if I took time off, I had to work double shifts before and double shifts when I got back. I created the life that was so high stress that the world revolved around me that literally, who wants to be in a world, and probably you're stuck in it because it's big in our industry, that you feel hostage to not being able to leave because who wants to have to work harder? So you take less vacations or I'm going to encourage you to start believing that the life you want is possible. So when Sydney was about 14, we realized we only had 4 spring breaks left with her. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And I started saving every year to take my family on vacation. It became a priority because I always used to say, I don't know how people, I had Sydney when I was 19. So we were young parents and we were just getting by in entrepreneurship and all the things most of the time. But we also lived in a world that was comparison based. So the first half of my adult life, I was always trying to, the more I had, the better I felt. And then when I started reading all these books and listening to podcasts about people who have balance, have wealth, who are educated, and not educated like they have a degree, but just understand how things work in the world, who have faith and all these things. Anyways, I read so many different types of books. I realized that the commonality was they believed they could. They believed that they could. And so I started saying, well, I believe I want to be debt free. That was a huge one for me. I don't need to have all of this stuff because my main priorities are time with my family, work-life balance, a loving marriage, And I started pursuing after those things, like I was pursuing after the stress, the car, the things like that. And not that you can't have it, but if you're working so hard to just pay your bills, we got a problem. So there was a season, I talked about this, where we lost everything. My business, my husband lost his job. We were on government insurance because I had pregnant for my third kid. And anyways, we lost everything. But I still had more than I needed because I was beginning to understand these concepts. So put into practice right now, you guys. You are capable. There's a book called Profit First. I love the original one, but there is a Profit First for salons as well. If you are in this area where it talks about paying yourself, having 7 different bank accounts, and each of those bank accounts is for something. A lot of hairdressers live paycheck to paycheck. Too much cash creates too much confusion, and they're not wise. We're not wise because we haven't been taught. And so having these, pay yourself first, pay your taxes second, understand your savings account, and having the savings accounts for the different things that you want to do. And then begin to dream about, like, you know what became less appealing to me? Wasting my time. As I began to realize not only can I have the things that my clients had, I can have a nice car. I can take my family on vacation. I can pay for my kid to do that camp. I didn't have to ask my mom for the money because I began to think, what are the things I love doing that create money and that I'd be willing to give up my time for money? Or is this something I need to um, work for or create something? And just began moving towards that, you guys. And every year, as my vision has gotten clearer about what my North Star is, what I'm expecting, wanting for my family, believing God has for me, and walking into that, it's become easier and easier. And now I've stopped saying the lie that hairdressers can't, that um, I have to work. I don't do it. I'm not going to work. I think this is a little harder for nail techs. I do believe this is the hardest for nail techs. I'm going to say that just because your clients come every 2 weeks, but you can still put this into place, you guys. You can figure out how to not go crazy before and after by knowing your vacation schedule, by letting your clients know in advance. And if you lose a few clients over it, be okay with that because rejection is protection. So if someone leaves you because they want you to work 75 hours in 1 week, they're crazy. They're crazy. You don't want clients like that. That's why you're stressed out. That's what I had to learn too. If someone is pissy with me because I don't want to work a 14-hour day to get them in because I took a vacation, that's not a client for me. I want the ones who are like, you know what? Yes, you go do that. I can come in a couple of weeks. Create, believe, visualize. The Bible says that people without a vision will perish. For me, being so steady on what that looks like. I had an uncle that worked at a factory. Not that that's a less than job, but he worked at a factory. And the longer he was there, the more vacation time. And this really sat with me. So he had a factory job. We always think, oh, it's like the people who have these high educated, high level jobs. First of all, hogwash, who cares? But he worked there and he got 6 weeks of paid vacation a year. And it began to make me think, you know what? I've been doing the same job for 20 years, 30 years. Now I'm at 30. At that time, it was 20. I deserve 3 weeks off a year. I deserve, I've worked hard. These are normal things in normal jobs. Make it happen. What does that need to be? Do you need to save 10% of your weekly income so that you have a vacation fund, so that you can afford to pay your rent while you're off, so that you can pay your bills ahead of time? I always pay extra on all of my things so that I'm ahead of schedule. I got myself out of debt. So the first few years, we didn't do big vacation things because we got out of debt. We had an exchange student come and live with us a few years ago, you guys, and she was from Italy. And I was like, oh my God, what would it be like a dream to take my family to Italy? And then I thought, well, my husband and I are both self-employed, and we're self-employed, like regular self-employed, not the millionaire kind. And I thought, I'll never be able to save to take my family to Italy. And I sit with you today with a bank account called Italy, fully funded to take my family to Italy. But for 3 years now, I haven't been able to get my whole family together to do it. And now it's an issue of just trusting that They're in different seasons, and that we're just not in a season to do that. So I'm going to Italy for business this year for the first time, you guys, in October. I'm so excited. But I have put that on my vision board for the last 4 years. And I was sad holding on to, I thought I was going to take my family. Here's the coolest part. I was able to save that money a little bit at a time by being consistent, visual, and expectant that that was happening and dreaming about. I'm still a little afraid to fly overseas by myself, but you know what? God is making full on this plan. And I still believe I'm going to take my family someday. It's just not today. But the money's there, the dream is there, the vision's there. And I have set up practices now to be able to take that time off. You are worthy of that. You are worthy of that. In this industry, we get a little caught up in the rat race and the comparison. I'm going to say something. Don't buy a $400 or $500 purse if you can't take a week off of work. You'd be happier to save that $400 or $500, get ahead on your rent at work so that you can take the time off. You're worthy of that. What are the things you'd rather have than what you do have? Start selling those things, daggammit, like Dave Ramsey says, and get yourself debt free so you can live the life today that no one else gets to live. You're freaking awesome. I know that. Have a great day.
I guess this is where I ask you to subscribe to my channel, to follow me on social, and to listen wherever podcasts can be found. And join me every Tuesday at 2 as we unpack how to heal your hair, your heart, and your happiness.